Now is your time to flank.
What up, everybody, and welcome back to the 13th floor, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing. We've got another amazing show lined up for you today. The topic is going to be centered around game changers. We're going to get into King James and the debate between King James and MJ. We're also going to have Carol's take on the P7D Game Changers training program. But before we get into all of that, let me go ahead and introduce my guys. So first up, as always, the CMO. Faison, what's happening?
Times are changing every day. We won't get by on them same old ways. Welcome, everybody. Enjoying you all here. Appreciate you. Love you. Let's have a good time.
I see you switched it up this week.
Trying to do something different, mixing and matching.
Easy. We got Deacon Ruber back on the call, man. I guess it's because we're going to be talking about the finals or whatever. So since it's basketball this week, he said, I got a lot to say about that.
Nah, I got a lot to say about that, but it's a morning. It's a Friday morning, so the baseball stars at school, not at the baseball field.
Easy. We also got Mr. Logistics with the special guest appearance, man. What's going on, BJ?
Hey, we took some time out to do something for the people, man.
Okay, easy. DJ Barry B Fresh, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much. You know how we do. I saw Art just kicked a hot 7 bars. I mean, he's spitting. He's about to go to the cypher. I respect that. Musically, we can dig it. Hope y'all can dig it. I'm ready. It's my birthday weekend. I'm trying to turn all the way up. So let's get it.
Happy birthday, Fresh. And as always, the prolific one, Carol Cadillo. You look war ready today, man. TTG, you got your camo shirt on. What's happening in sunny Orlando?
Oh, man, it's not even sunny out here, man. It's gloomy. Animals are running for shelter from the incoming rain. Yeah, it's been raining a bunch in South Florida, Central Florida. So it's all good, though, man. I'm good, man. Out here picking up the pieces of me. I'll explain that later on. But, yeah, man, just out here having a good time.
Awesome, man.
And I'm glad to be back. I had to kind of take a back seat last week to TI, So I'm sure you guys are glad too, because now I'm just not gonna be on here making faces at you guys and doing all types of stuff. So I actually have to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, you were all time last week with those faces and everything. Like we said, man, once these recordings come out of the podcast and y'all can actually see the craziness that happens on screen, I promise you the listenership, the viewership at that point will go up tenfold. But easy, man, I got a question, man. We're going to jump right in. Since BJ and Mike are on the podcast today, I have a question, man, because, you two are vets in the game when it comes to this parenting situation. And I have my son full time right now. I have my daughter as well. But my son's 4 years old, right? And I thought, people tell me about the terrible twos and that kind of, it spills over into the threes or whatever. But now we at this point where he's just really, really struggling with the following directions, man. And it's me to a certain degree, but it's really bad with women. So I know his mom probably spoils him, while she's with him or whatever. And I guess it might be difficult because that's her baby boy and, you don't want to do too much or what have you. And he's so little and he's young, but I feel like he know what he's doing, man. This dude is a mastermind. But then again, also with his teachers
they all are.
Exactly. But with his teachers at the daycare, they're all females. And even with Chris, he doesn't listen to directions. So I wanted to ask y'all, did y'all have to deal with that with y'all kids at an early age? And if so, man, how did you kind of counteract that? Because I don't really I try to use the physical discipline as like a last resort. But it seems like I'm having to go that route a little more often than I like to at this point. So I wanted to get you guys' take on it to see if I can make any changes or what have you.
Mike, you want to start out? This is cool. So, all right, so I start out with some experiences. So, one of the things that just hearing you from the start is that consistency, like that transition between, like say, his mom and then with you, and then having teachers. If there's not a consistent way he's being disciplined or a consistent reprimand, then that challenge he's gonna test the waters. I expect any kid to do that. Like again, teaching in elementary school is, any grade level, you see it. as a brand new teacher walking in the building, as a parent, no matter what aspect you take it from, kids are going to try to push the limit to get away with whatever they can get away from. And unfortunately, sometimes taking it to the physical discipline part, again, that's something that, again, I experienced as growing up myself. I'm not against it, but I know there are limits to that, especially nowadays when too many people are in everybody else's business. But at the same time, I think you need to handle your business around your own home, because again, you're training your son up that nobody else should have to discipline him outside of your house, especially others that are in other authority, to then use different consequences, as we see nowadays with a lot of our youth around the nation. But consistency, and then also one thing I had to learn with, so I have 2 sons and a daughter. My youngest son is 8 years old, my oldest is 10. But my youngest son, I realized with him, when it came to not listening and not following directions, a little bit of special ed background came in as well from school, from my undergrad experience. But I had to break it down in chunks for him. I couldn't give him a big, long laundry list of things to do. My oldest son, I could tell him from A to Z everything I want him to do, and he's gonna go do it. My son, I need to tell him A and B, and then C and D once the A and B is done. I couldn't give him a whole bunch of everything at one time. He processes it, but he's not that focused to get it done. So there's different strategies. But at the end of the day, it goes back to consistency. If you're consistent with what you're doing, Chris is consistent with what he's doing, and you have that conversation with mom as well, that communication has to be in and everybody has to follow and back up everybody else.
Got you, man. I like how you said how you break it down, A and B and then C and D. I find myself really trying to explain things to him, because I know he's a smarter child. He understands what's going on. I feel like if he has that understanding of why he shouldn't be doing certain things and why he needs to act a certain way, and then you throw the incentives in there, then hopefully I don't have to resort to that physical mode of discipline. But like you said, us growing up, I mean, I had to deal with it, with my mom and my father. So, I don't think it's anything wrong with it to a certain extent, as you already hit on. Mike, what's your take on the situation?
Yeah, I had to have a conversation with him. So, Mike was the youngest of the 3. I got the 2 girls. So, my dad kind of went through the process where he was like, every female can be somebody's mother, so you should always treat them as if you would want somebody to treat your mom. So that mindset of putting that in him, to where there's always a love between the son and his mother, to where it's that bond. So I start building off of that early, and I did it from both sides. So I let Von know, like, this is what a guy and we're thinking as sons. So it's a reason why they say mama's boy. It's not that we're like that. We're protective of you. We love you. We understand who you are and what you meant to us. So you need to use that as his mother to build on that, to get him to understand the female perspective of life. I can deal with him on the male perspective, but you got to get him to understand everything that he's going to be going through as it relates to females, how they think about, like, the things that they're thinking for him. So when I start having those conversations with Michael, it was about, one, respecting women regardless of who they are. So whatever they say, however they do, you be respectful. There's no hitting. So he would go through a period where, as a boy, you want to wrestle. So I only got 2 sisters. So there was that conflict that as a boy, sometime to get out of control and you want to fight. Well, Destiny will allow him to hit her. Yasmin's not on it. So he hit Yasmin hit him, he slapped her. And it was almost on. But she's to a point where, like, I'm not going to play with you like that. So he had to understand, like, you don't do that regardless. Like, I don't care who it is. I know you're playing. I know you feel it's your sister and it's that sibling. But we go back to the same thing, just like BJ said, consistency. I've been talking to you about that since you were a baby. So as it got older, it's been different points in his development where you got to come back to it. We're talking about terrible twos. When we get as males to 12 and 13 and start going through the body change and we start stinking, we start doing stupid stuff. So literally his last day of school, and when we left Ohio, he got suspended for throwing rocks out of a window on the bus going to school. Like, really, your last day of school ever in Ohio, you are throwing, and it was like a bag of rocks, like 15 he was throwing at cars. So
He collected those.
Right, but he's going through it. I'm like, why'd you do it? I don't know. And then you think about it, remember, like, I don't know, a lot of stuff that we did, that's the change. So you always got to make sure that you having them consistent conversations. And I will point it back to just respect the women, respect of everything female, respect your mom, because if he's saying he's having a problem with females, that can spiral out. And you want to make sure you got his voice and he hears your voice and everything that he's doing when he's by himself.
One of the things you got to understand too, is no matter what type of discipline, because you got to go back to the root word, discipline, you're going to teach somebody something. So, and a lot of people just think discipline is straight some type of physical punishment. So when you're teaching somebody something, you have to have a lesson of what's going on. So my boys, I may be getting mad at them or I'm talking to them, whatever, and it gets to the point now where really, if I talk to them, I don't have to resort to that because you can see it in their face. You can see the remorse in their body language, everything, and their processing everything. But I have to walk away for a minute and then say, hey, okay, so how can I relate to him and go back to him and also have a conversation about what was going on. Have a conversation to let him know what was going on and why I reacted the way I did.
I was going to say I have a unique take because for those who don't know, my daughter's my stepdaughter, but I've been with her since she was 2 years old. So I have the unique hurdle of having to raise and discipline a child, but also having to sometimes walk on eggshells because you never know what her father is ultimately going to hear or, have his own take on to have to deal with, any type of repercussions on his end. But I think the one thing I found is just like BJ said, the consistency of showing her love, but then also showing her disappointment, showing her when she is not doing, regardless of what it is, when it's not in line with what needs to go right, being able to explain and show her, like BJ said, it's not with me about any physical discipline. It's the look I remember my father giving me from across the football field when I wasn't doing something right, and me feeling that cloak of shame and that cloak of, okay, I need to straighten up or it's going to go down. That it's the same thing. If you keep that consistency on them, you explain and don't treat them so much as a child, treat them as a human being in explaining, hey, this is what needs to go on, this is why, and this is why I'm now upset with you, this is what you did wrong, and being able to identify, have them understand and know that even though you are disciplining them in that moment, overall they still know that you're disciplining them from a space of love and not a place of, trying to point the finger at them or trying to do anything else but build them up to be a better member of society.
One of the things I talk to Gina about all the time is that we have high expectations for them regardless, no matter what they do. But have we always clearly communicated to them what those expectations are? And sometimes we hold them to those expectations and they don't really understand or know what you're expecting of them. I mean, we do that in the society. We do that with bosses, with subordinates, everything. Sometimes it's just that communication is not there. And how do you uphold something when you don't know what that bar is? Well,
the hardest thing in raising a child is you get caught up in, especially once they hit an age where they can really communicate with you, where you start to treat them like your peers and your friends or family members and think that their mind state is at the same level that yours is. And so you expect for them to remember things and do things that normally if I tell BJ or if I tell Carol, hey, this is what I need or that's what it is, they can consistently remember that every time. But when you go ahead and are doing that with a child, you wind up getting frustrated and you have to take that step back of realize, wait a minute, this is a child. I need to help them build their mind in order to understand how to develop and do these things, as opposed to feeling like, oh yeah, I've been with my daughter for 10 years. That doesn't mean that she's a 28-year-old. She's still a 10, 11, 12-year-old. And so it's a big difference. I think Art had an amazing point he wanted to make.
ever since the birth of Namdi and EJ and I, so we're both Greek. She's Delta, I am a Kappa, and I've always talked about the ability to take him through the mental part. I understand the mental part of pledging, so I'm looking forward to getting him in a mindset when he needs to be reprimanded or learning steps, that we'll be able to go back through my process that I had and teach him those things so that he can understand the replications, I guess that's the word I'm trying to think of, for
repercussions.
Thank you. Repercussions. The repercussions.
I was gonna let that one
actions.
slide.
Thank you, I appreciate that. The repercussions of his actions. So be it for disrespect, or be it for success, or he can learn those things through the process. So I'm gonna have fun with him when he's ready to get to that stage where he can actually do some Kappa TV and all those kind of cool things. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, I think that's one of the benefits of growing up in a Greek household, man. He's gonna get all of those benefits when you talk about discipline and respect and deference and those things of that nature. So I'm not worried about it too much, but it just concerned me because I wasn't used to it, and then coming from him at such an early age. For the most part, Kellen been a good kid, so I never really, seen him like try me or others in that manner. But it just seemed like he trying to step out the box. So you gotta reel him in. But I appreciate that advice. Go ahead, Curl.
Mental terrorism.
Start the pledging now, bro.
Mental terrorism is always better than physical discipline.
Right. Start the pledging.
Hey, so there is one point that we did not hit on, and I want to make sure that we talk about it because, as you said, Kellen has been a pretty good kid to this point. And in addition to him changing from being with his mom to being around you, he's now around a different set of kids. So there's a certain amount of mimicking and influence that those kids are providing. So it is very important, in addition to the mental terrorism, which you probably won't have to deal with the effects of that until he's out of the house. But you've got to instill in him that he is an individual and he does not have to do what he sees other people do. So that leadership is something very important from a very early age, because you want to role model the behavior that you expect others to role model, and you don't have to follow the other kids that you see. So you can absolutely act independently, and that doesn't mean that you're weird or you're a nerd or there's something strange about you. It is okay for you to be different from the other kids.
That is a great point, and I would definitely put that in the bag, in the inventory, man. I appreciate that.
We got to definitely make sure that, again, just kind of wrap, we got to make sure we're modeling everything we expect of them as well. That's the main thing. That do as I say, not as I do type mentality that you see out here a lot.
Yeah, that's dead.
That can't be with it, because the kids nowadays, they're too advanced, far more advanced than we were ever at these ages, and they can call the BS, and they know. So it's just, if it's just words, it's just gonna be words. They're gonna end up doing what they want to do. So you have to be the true example too.
Awesome, man. Yeah, appreciate that conversation, guys. So I definitely want to take this opportunity to go ahead and jump into game one of the finals. By the time this podcast comes out, we'll definitely be.
Mike sat up to the camera, everything.
So you see him got excited. I'm excited myself, man, because I'm definitely a big KD fan, although I don't agree with the decision. I think it was probably one of the weaker moves he could have made with his decision to go to Golden State. I'm still going to follow my dog, and I want him to get that ring, and they should be beating them by 20 points or better with the team that they have. But we can go with the game one takeaways, man. I'm going to go to Mike D first, man. He's the basketball expert on the podcast. What you think, man? What you think?
Man, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into, like, I'm from Cleveland. I'm not as a kid I was torn from being a Cavs fan. It goes back to, everybody from Cleveland knows, it goes back to the trade of Ron Harper. So since then, I've never liked the Cavs, and I had the privilege of coaching a high school team when LeBron James was a freshman in Ohio, and the kid that I was coaching was number 2 ranked. LeBron was number 1, so I've known the inner workings of him going from high school to college, and I've been on record always as saying he should have went to college. So with that and my distaste for the Cavs, it's personal. I really don't like them. So, and it's because of the way that they played yesterday. So like when you look at the East, they bully the East. Like the bench is jumping, they got their legs kicking, they doing the arrows and all type of stuff. But when it gets hard, they just quit. And it's like he quits. The only person that you see that consistently plays throughout a consistent basis is Kyrie. And Kyrie's almost like, okay, I'm going to hold the team down until LeBron comes back. And then you have the universe talk about he's the greatest player in the world. Can't nobody stop him. He's better than MJ. No. Like, you got to keep it in perspective. And it's looking at the way that they played yesterday. Jordan would have never played like that. They're not losing by 30 in that fashion. If they are losing by 30, it's a whole different dynamic. But like, he's crying to his teammates. The dude's 6'9", 260 pounds. Somebody slap you in the face, man. You shouldn't be acting like somebody shot you.
Like, he shouldn't. I hate the fact that he cries after everybody touches him when he bullies his way to the rim all the time.
Right.
However, so I think you made a couple of good points. I definitely want to get into that MJ LBJ conversation in a second, but that quitting factor. So for the first quarter and a half, 2 quarters, maybe the first half, LeBron was on, and his team just wasn't giving him everything that he needed to kind of help out. Because when LeBron is at his best, he can get you a quiet 30, 10, and 12, and you'll be like, dang, how did he score 30 points? Because he was living from the free throw line, he was getting to the basket. He had that MJ-like fire in his eyes for that first quarter and a half. But as you said, once it got hard, Kyrie wasn't hitting those shots. His bench wasn't really working out. They tried to sub in Deron Williams and Kyle Korver, and they ain't really getting much out of that. There was one moment particular, I think it was either early in the fourth quarter or late in the third quarter, when LeBron jacked. I think they went back and forth. It was like fast break after fast break for like a minute. And then he just came down the court and jacked a 3 from like 20 feet behind the arc. At that point in the game, and I think they got the lead down to about 5 or 6 before it just got out of control again. But at that point in the game, I saw the quit in his eyes. And so when people talk about those comparisons to, Michael Jordan and them just being game changers in their right, I don't really know that you can compare the two, first of all, because they play the game 2 totally different ways. But when you get into the people talking about, LeBron scored more points than Michael in the playoffs and things of these nature, and the statistical references, numbers will tell you one thing, but when you actually on the court, and I feel like they both impact the game in 2 completely different ways. And so I don't ever think he'll be greater than Michael Jordan. If he wins this final somehow, some way, it'll definitely be close, because he would have climbed an seemingly insurmountable mountain. But outside of that, man, I don't think it'll ever be close. One, because they play 2 totally different games. And then statistically, LeBron James has, when you talk about the playoff points reference, he has 25 more games than Jordan had to get those points. So obviously, if I got that many more games to score 30 points, I'm gonna get the record. But I'm gonna get you guys' takes on it as we go through. Go ahead.
First of all, I hate that we're even doing this comparison on this podcast, because I hate when people do it, because it's a different league. You got a different level of player at this point, and they play 2 different positions. So I don't even like the comparison. But we talk about the quit factor, and LeBron was 2 assists away from a triple-double. He had 28 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists. He led the team in assists. He was second in rebounds. I don't know what else there was he could do. So, for instance, the Cavs had a total of 15 assists.
And he got,
so what does that tell you? He had 8.
8 of them. And that's my point.
He had 8 of them.
Even though he shut down because it wasn't anything else he could do. And his team, the pieces around him didn't show up like they should have.
I don't think it's quit. I think it's disappointment. And look, I'm a LeBron James fan, but I will never say that he is greater than Michael Jordan, because again, like Carol stated, it's 2 different eras. However, you cannot, as much as he did on the court last night, I don't think it's about quit as much as it's about the disappointment of realizing, man, even with me doing this, and he did the majority of that in 3 quarters. That he's like, nobody else right now can help me? What is going on? And it's looking like, hey, I brought you guys, I told you guys, hey, we're coming to the big dance. This is what we're going to do. And when you get to the dance and show up with all your homeboys, and then all of a sudden they have on bad suits and they didn't do like, hey, we said we were all coming with the, you know, the matching lapel joints and we're going to have bow ties. And then all of a sudden you guys got on regular ties and Adidas and just have everything, you know, thrown off. I think it's more the disappointment of like, oh man, I thought we were coming here to shut it down. We were coming in here to make a statement, and now I'm making my statement. I'm on the mic and I'm looking at my band like, what do you mean you don't remember the song? What's going on? You guys aren't doing, because he was getting them shots. People were just missing shots. The defense was horrible. There was points at that game last night. It looked like an all-star game.
Exactly.
It was just like, hey, just everybody run both sides. Like, to have, like, I think there was 11 dunks in the first quarter.
Power
It was-
dunks.
it was-
11 power dunks.
Yeah, not even like,
Hey,
yeah, like
it was
open lane, almost jumped from the free throw.
It was crazy. And listen, I think it is exactly what Ian said. It's, here we are in the third quarter. We have a chance to get closer. I don't know if it ever got closer than 12 points in the fourth.
I think it was
but
12. Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to say, hey, this is exactly what I was talking about. I told you guys you weren't mentally ready for this. And here we are where we come out and I'm trying to get you guys involved, but you guys just aren't executing. You aren't executing. And there's no way
The biggest
that
thing with LeBron,
they're never going to win games with 15 assists. The Warriors had 31 assists as a team, and the Warriors just got straight disrespectful. We're going to put these bums in off the bench and let them shoot threes on you, because they were definitely
just-
trying
you
to
could see
mortally
the-
wound the Cavs for the rest of the series. Like, these bums going to come in
the
here.
Warriors
Matt Barnes is in the game.
they were holding that grudge from last year. They have been holding on to it. KD has been holding the grudge of the whole year of everybody talking about him coming. That it's, you know, there was a lot of fireworks that were lit last night. However, it was that moment that you noticed from LeBron was, again, the, hey, we're here. And him as a leader, he is a very on-court coach type player, where his mentality is already going to, I need to start grabbing on the moments right now in this game, and I'm going to start pinpointing to everybody that we're going to talk about right as soon as we get back into this locker room, and I'm going to be getting on everybody to, this is what we're going to practice on these next couple days in order to make sure we can execute in the next game. That's the big difference, is that he goes to a different mind state, whereas MJ was kill. And yeah, LeBron has made more points and less shots, but the MJ's mentality wasn't about caring how many shots I took. It was about winning the game by any means necessary. Where LeBron is such a basketball computer that he has too much matrix that goes on in his head, and that's why a lot of times he winds up, in a sense, missing opportunities and not doing. If he would have been as much of a bully as he's been, like, especially this last half of the year, his whole career, in the sense of being able to, you know what, I'm going to go to the basket and there's nothing you're going to do about it. I'm going to get a foul. You know what type of points he would have had and how dominant he would have been.
Listen, this is the last thing I'm going to say about it. I also feel like Michael Jordan would have went and got Scottie Pippen, and whoever was not mentally in the game, they'd have probably whooped their behinds in the locker room. And nobody would have said a word about it.
Quick.
And nobody would have said a word about it.
Real quick.
LeBron
in the locker room, they would have made a close circle in a huddle.
We don't know
on the
what
side
goes
of the
on in the
court.
locker room now. We don't know what goes on in the locker room. So I don't know if LeBron is that
I guarantee
type of
you,
leader.
LeBron can't do that.
No, it's not happening.
He's too big. LeBron hit you, he gonna break something on you.
Yeah, but JR.
But he might break something, but it comes a point in time where your growth as a leader leads you to that point. And I think Faison is gonna, hit on that in a second. But it comes a point in time where he's the man on the team. He's doing what he needs to do to get it done. And he is known for elevating those around him. Like, he is at his best when he has those 8 assists, those 30 points, and those 12 rebounds, and it's quiet. Like, it is quiet, but his growth as a leader is going to, what takes him over the hump. I'll let Faison go ahead and expound on that a little bit more.
Well, I mean, I'm just talking about, and I want to kind of go into what happened after the game ended. So normally LeBron, when game ends and he gets blown out, he shoots right back to the locker room. You don't see him. His teammates usually all come right behind him, and then that's it. This game, and if anyone's watching the game around 11 something, he was walking back with straight energy, but he stopped. He turned around and he started giving low fives to the whole team. And I think that was a point when, as a leader, he said, I can't just be selfish and what happened with me. I have to go there and tell the whole team, hey, we're going to get better next game or game 2. That was the first time I saw him not take it all on his chest for himself and actually spread the love to the team, saying we got this going forward. So, he's growing, and I don't think game 2 will be the same as last year where they got blew out even more. It's going to be a tough game for them, but the fact that this time, game 1, he didn't just run to the back and get upset and start throwing things or whatever may be in the locker room. He showed that he's growing as a leader and he's ready to become that next level person.
Easy. So who y'all picking for game 2?
Warriors.
Oh, the Warriors,
Cavs.
sure.
Cavs.
It won't be a blowout,
I'm
but
gonna
it'll be
Cavs
the
to
Warriors.
come
I
back.
say about 35.
One topic we did not bring up is, the fact that LeBron had to deal with that horrible piece of racism at his home.
Oh man, yeah,
that fire's still building up in him.
Absolutely. Right.
And just like you said, a silent 28, 10 and 8. 8, is that what the stats were, Carol?
No,
28,
sir.
10 and 8.
It was like 38, 12,
28,
and
15, and 8.
15 and 8. Excuse me. Again, where it's LeBron is that he wasn't even turned up the whole game. So being able to do that in essentially 3 quarters last night, I'm expecting him to really step up his game to another level and look for him to do 35 plus. But then I'm also looking for a lot of those shots that were not falling and a lot of the slack defense that was going on for the Cavs to not be happening in this next game.
And
Can I make one quick point? Go ahead. Okay.
JR, Tristan Thompson, between the two of them, they had 3 points and 2 assists and 4 rebounds. No, as starters, you guys got to do better.
But it's
I am not a fan of Tristan Thompson at all.
Tristan Thompson.
But before before we go, I just want to say, I hope that the announcers and everyone on the team would stop being so surprised at how many rebounds the Cavs get from Golden State, because that's a team that shoots. They're going to guarantee get 30-some odd rebounds. So I'm hoping that they just stop saying this, because they miss a lot when they shoot threes all the time. So if you're listening, announcers, stop talking about how many rebounds they're getting. It's going to happen.
All right, so I'm gonna refute that point because it's offensive rebounds, and when you're talking about how to beat them, you can't give them second chance shots, and I'm pretty sure they don't get that many offensive rebounds a game. So that's where you brought up the point with Tristan Thompson. He got to be bigger down there, man. J.R. Smith got to be able to shoot lights out.
That's what happened.
But
he's 30.
It's not
Golden
that
State was
easy,
getting
though.
second and third
He's
chance
30 player.
opportunities
It's the
on like
competition.
some of the
So if you
crazy
think
stuff.
about it, the Cavs been playing, like, people forget that there's a difference in level of basketball. It's almost like the East is the minors and the West is the majors. Like, the Cavs been playing against Boston, the Wizards, the Hawks. Like, there's no team in the East that could compete with the speed of the Warriors. They just moving to. If you look at how the Cavs they were tired
on the court. It's
like,
a track meet.
Right, and that's not going to stop. It's not like you're going to get faster in the next week and a half. The Cavs don't have enough people to score points. Even if LeBron get 45, Kyrie get 30, K Love get 20, that's like 90. You figure JR and them will get 20, that's 110. The Warriors regularly scoring 135. Like, it's not enough. Like, even if you think about, you said JR and Tristan Thompson got to pick up their scoring. Draymond didn't score. Klay Thompson didn't score. Like, those are people on a regular basis. Klay Thompson's not going to miss open 3-pointers the rest of the series. Neither is Draymond. It's literally no answers. They don't have enough time. They don't have enough people.
That's what they said.
Man, last year. Yeah, last year was a little different. Last year
they didn't have Kevin Durant.
KD wasn't there. I know.
Last year was a check being signed by the NBA.
Yeah,
I know.
I think the Warriors got a little cocky
I know.
last year. They was up 3-1 and they kind of coasted like, yeah, we better than these dudes, because they started mouthing off a little bit after game 3. So as long as they don't mouth off and get it.
Hey, listen. That player that's not on the court, called the NBA and that money revenue, The Cavs are going
There
to
you
win
go.
the next game because if
we
Golden
go.
State wins the next game, ratings are going to go down. People aren't going to be watching, so Cavs are going to win the next game.
I'm not a believer. We're going to leave that one there, man. We got to tackle that on the next podcast because I'm definitely not a believer in this whole NBA got the joint rigged or whatever. But we'll get into that at a later date. I definitely want to give Carol an opportunity to jump into the Game Changers, man. P7D, the Game Changers training. How has that been for you, man?
Man, it's been a phenomenal experience. I really wish
Shout out
that
to
I could have
T.I.
all
J.
you
That's
guys with me.
Phenomenal.
Actually, I was shout out to Eric Thomas. Phenomenal. I think that's his word. But I really wish I could have all you guys with me through all the phone calls, the messages daily. I get 3 messages daily from like the coaches, the one-on-one sessions. It's just amazing. And look, we've been trying to, if you go back and you listen to the early podcast, you hear, look, I've been trying to establish this for years. And it's amazing how just in a couple weeks, the amount of focus and guidance that I've been given that's gotten me down to a very specific lane. And I think we've talked about what is it that's your gift and what is it that you're supposed to contribute. And, you know, we kind of go back and forth with, can you do more than one thing? Or, you know, should you really just focus on one thing and, you know, be the master of that? And, you know, they've really broken it down to something that even us as a group on here, that on the 13th floor, that we've never brought it down to, is that, hey, look, you really want to go out here and master this one lane just so that you are mastering that lane. You are the master of that. People know you for that. But then that opens up so many more opportunities for you that, hey, you can go dabble in all those opportunities once you've mastered your lane. And, you know, we won't let the cat out the bag now, but because we're doing some branding stuff and really trying to get down the principles and everything. So when we finally release to you guys what my lane is, there are going to be people out there that are going to be like, oh my gosh, where have you been? We've been waiting for you. I'm already starting to experience that just with the people that are in Game Changers of, holy smokes, this is what this guy's going to be talking about. We've been looking for you. We've been waiting for you. So it's amazing that what they've got me narrowed down to is something that there's going to be no question if I'm qualified to talk about it. There will be, nobody will ever say, well, why should we listen to you talk about this? It's going to be real obvious why you should listen to me. And guess what? There's nobody else in that lane. Nobody else. So really quickly, the potential is there to go from a few people know about us to everybody knows about us. 50% of the population knows about us overnight. So just really excited about that, man. And look, we say it all the time. For people to get around those people that can impact your gift, your career, what it is that you want to give to the world, there is no greater gift, there's no greater contribution, there's no greater thing that you can do for yourself than to get yourself around people that are already doing what it is that you want to do, or that can influence your course of decision, your course of action. It greatly cuts down the learning curve. And man, I'm just grateful that we took the leap and actually went for this opportunity, as opposed to, you know, puffing our chest out and be like, man, we don't need them, man. We don't need to work with them. We can do this on our own. Yeah, we could do it on our own, but we have cut out so much of the time by investing in this and doing this.
I think that's the biggest thing, man, is the investment. You know, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, as people trying to get a side hustle going, especially if you've accumulated a knowledge base and you feel like you know what you're doing, and you starting from ground zero. So, you know, it's a lot to say that I'm going to invest this large portion of money, this large portion of time into something that I'm not really sure what I'm going to get out of it. And you've been seeing some success on your own, building your own platform, building your own business. However, when you talk about the investment that we made with P7D and the people that are pouring back into us, it's coming back, and it's more than just marginal success. As he said, they were able to narrow down the lane, because beforehand we were you know, with the speaking ability or your speaking message, it was really broad. And that might have been an issue that we just didn't foresee way down the road. So I think the biggest thing that I get from all of that is actually making an investment. You got to make sure that it's a credible source. I definitely feel like we did the research as far as that goes when it came to, you know, ETA, P7D, and knowing that they were a credible source. So don't just go for it with anybody that's saying, hey, give me $50 or $100 or $1,000 and I'll take you from A to B, no problem. Make sure it's a credible source, but that investment, man.
Yeah, you got to do your research. And look, we started doing our research 2 years ago, right? We started following Eric Thomas.
Exactly.
We started going to events, just trying to get a vibe for, okay, you know, let's really find out about these guys. We started trying to talk to the people at the top, and we were never pushed away. So when this came out, it was easy for us to make the decision. So Faison went to Stay Ready with EJ, his wife. What was it, last weekend? 2 weekends ago. And even though I wasn't there, you know, they were still like, oh, hey, Art, what's going on? You know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, everybody that's, you know, up there at the top knew exactly who he was connected to, you know, what we were trying to do. Once again, thanking us for being in P7D and Game Changers, and just really excited about what it is we're going to do. So when you see that type of response, it lets you know that we're not just a number, right? There were some other people that we could have went to for training that would have probably been more, let's say, world recognized as far as name recognition. And we would have never seen that person that actually leads that group. We'd have never touched that person, spoken to that person. You know, as far as Eric Thomas, man, we've actually sat and with his mom. You know, we sat with his mom when we went to P7D, and we were right next to his mom, and she was talking to us. We were talking to her. She sat with us for like a whole day. So, you know, that just doesn't happen. So just the genuine nature of ETA is what's, you know, made us gravitate towards them. And there's a lot of similarities with people in our group, people in their group. So, man, I'm just excited about what the future holds and where we go from here.
Definitely, man.
I think that's awesome. One of the things I think is the biggest takeaways for anybody listening, as far as whatever your career is the fact that, you know, we did the research. We not only did the research, but actually had the opportunity to go and feel these guys' energy and feel their spirit and really get a better idea of what they represent as real people. But then from there, understanding that it's an investment in yourself. Instead of, you know, I deal with a lot of businesses in what I call the sliced white bread syndrome, where they figure that whatever they're selling is the greatest thing since sliced white bread, and they don't need to do any advertising or any expertise. They can just open up their doors, and now everybody's going to come flooding in. And it's about understanding you as a person, you as a business. You need to make that investment in yourself and understand, you know, nothing is built in a day. There are very few and far in between things that are, you know, that instant viral effect. And I know we get shaded with how of a right now society we have become with the internet and how quickly we can demand, you know, information and resources. However, the reality still shows that these things take time. You have to have an investment in yourself, and a lot of things that people assume or thought were viral and instantaneous actually had a lot of work and preparation that were put into them. It was just that now they've finally come into public light. They've finally been accepted by society, or they've finally been brought into society's attention.
I like what you said, man, with that nothing was built in a day. I think as long as we keep that mindset, I mean, we've been working with Fledgeology for a while. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, a lot of people looking for that side hustle, whether it's to get out of your current job or just to get a little bit of extra cash flow in. Nothing is built in a day. Take the time, make the investment, make the right investment, I should say, and, you know, work on those things, and you'll start reaping those benefits. That's all I got today, Jim.
Move the investment away from the monetary mindset and push the motivation towards the satisfaction and the happiness mindset. If you look to push whatever you are doing into a space of happiness and well-being as opposed to just monetary gains, that's where you'll be able to actually ultimately create those monetary gains because of the energy and power that you're able to, create and resonate of happiness and success. Yes, sir.
There it is. That's all I got today, ladies and gentlemen. Before we go to Carol's closing, man, I want to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by the motivators at Fledgeology, where the mantra is leap, grow, fly. Carol, what you got for the people today, boss?
Hey, once again, just happy birthday to Fresh. Unfortunately, by the time this podcast out,
Nice horn, Art.
Better believe that.
wow, that just happened. Unfortunately, by the
Gemini
time
season.
unfortunately, by the time this comes out, we won't be able to tell you guys to go check out Fresh at the Bikes on the Beach Festival on North Beach. But Fresh is DJing that for 2 days. So the man is working on his birthday weekend. So, but anyway, that's how we do it.
Chase the dream, baby.
No work, bro. They up there spinning records,
Slow down.
drinking mixed drinks, enjoying the party.
We will have another podcast. On the misconception of how much work it truly is to be a DJ and the amount of
Barry B. Fresh, you are up
anxiety
next.
that you
Hey,
feel
audience.
at a point when you're supposed to be in a state of enjoyment. How much anxiety you can
Stress.
feel in the middle of an amazing party. Like Carol can vouch and attest to this, but let me tell you, do not get it twisted. Being DJ is not the glamorous and free flowing, party career that many assume that it
next
is.
week,
Exactly.
we gonna get into it. You are up next, sir. Save it.
ladies and
Let's
gentlemen,
go.
that might be the reason that the moderator gets replaced next week, because Fresh definitely is going to take that one to heart and will probably take over the show next week. But
Bars.
hey, let's
Bars.
get the people this message. And I think the message, in light of what we just talked about, is there are people that there's something in your mind, there's something in your gut that you feel like, man, this is something that I want to do, and you're holding yourself back. And don't be afraid to put that out there to other people, because once you put it out to other people, they're going to start to clear the way for you, and you're going to get to a point where things start to make sense and it starts to become clear. I thought that we had this figured out and that we were well on our way. And then when we got pushed on what is it specifically that you guys are going to be this is your lane, you master this lane, and nobody can be in this lane without coming through you. That really changed things for us. And listen, I cannot express enough how exciting it's going to be once we finally put it out there, what it is that my name will be associated with, what my teammates will be associated with. And listen, we got our hands out there in a few places, but we definitely going to master these lanes. So be Fresh. He's going to master the DJ lane for what he does. And trust me, he definitely brings a unique skill set that not a lot of DJs have. On the education front, there's definitely some different things that members of this team have that is a totally different viewpoint than what traditional educational field have. So from a marketing standpoint, the CMO, he walks into a place and remarkets your place within seconds. So there are things that are going on with the various members of the team that I'm so excited that I'm going through this now, because now that I'm going through this, I can pass this on to them for their particular lane, and we can narrow down their lanes and get them to the same level of success that we foresee for myself and for Fledgeology. So, hey, you can be there too. It just takes, you're going to have to expose yourself a little bit. You can't stay in that protected zone. If you're going to stay in that protected zone, guess what? Those dreams, those goals, they're going to be in a protected zone that you'll never get to. They'll be behind a wall. So come out from that layer of protection. You got to strip yourself down and expose yourself to really get to, if you want to grow, you got to know where the pain points are, what the faults are, and improve on those and build, and you'll get to that ultimate life that you desire.
Remember, on the 13th floor, there's no windows, so you got to take that jump.
So what we jumping out of?
Hey man, how you gonna tell them there's no windows and then we always talk about how views are amazing?
See, that's that different perspective we was talking about from the DJ for Barry B. Fresh, man. We jumping out of something.
That's
It ain't gonna
because
be
it's
windows.
the windows. That's because it's the windows of your mind.
And no walls.
Exactly.
No walls.
Well, just because there's no windows doesn't mean there's not window frames. So there's the frame of the window.
nice
There's just
save,
no
bro.
glass.
Cool
You know,
story.
I'm hood. So when I say window, I literally
You mean
mean
the
glass.
glass. So we
I'm
just
on
not
some
jumping
old
through the glass.
school, you know, exactly.
save. Cool story,
So
bro.
there is areas to jump out of, you know, but not, you know, the windows are your mind, bro. Jump out of your mind.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you all for listening here with us on the 13th floor, man. Remember, you can catch this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube. We uploading the videos to Facebook. You can always stay connected with us at fledgeology.com and shoot us an email, a message. If you're looking for bookings, info@fledgeology.com. But that's the show, ladies and gentlemen, here on the 13th floor, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing.
It's my birthday,
Happy
baby.
birthday.
Amazing, baby.
Oh, shake it. Shake it.
Taka, 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 taka.